In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to make grass. We're going to learn how to make your own rocks. I'm going to teach you how HDRIs work. And by the end of it, you should have a cute little scene of your own to play with in your own projects. So we'll start off by deleting everything in our scene. And then we're going to add in a plane. This is going to act as your ground. So scale it up to as much as you want. Apply all transforms. Then we're going to subdivide that in edit mode and really subdivide it quite a bit. We want to get this looking a bit more like terrain, so we're going to kind of split it up and distort it a little bit. So to do that, we're going to add in a displace modifier, and we're going to add a texture to that, edit the texture and make it into a Voronoi texture. And if we have a look in object mode, you can see that's made it a little bit distorted already. And you can play with these values then. It's the size and the intensity to kind of hone in on something that you really like. So we just want a kind of a gentle little randomness. We'll shade that smooth as well. And there we go. We've got a basic little terrain that I'm quite happy with. So we're going to apply that displace modifier. And then to further kind of make this more individual, we can grab some vertex there, hit O for proportional editing. And then if we grab it with G and scale this with a mouse wheel, you can move a kind of larger section and make some little holes with that then. So we'll change these, put some hills in, push it down. Just kind of play with this to get a bit of a landscape that we like the look of. So you just keep playing with this. There we go. I'm pretty happy with what we've got. So once we've got something we're quite happy with, just to make this a little bit smoother again, you can see it's quite jagged. We'll add another modifier into that. We'll give it a subdivision surface just to smooth that over, and there we go. That's our terrain looking good. Now this is a little bit bare for our scene. So what we're going to do is add in our grass next. So we're going to go to the particle tab, add in a hair, check advanced, and then we're going to up this number by a ton. That is the basic starting block of our grass. This is way too long at the moment, so we'll bring that hair length down, say a 0.5. Looks pretty good to me. Yeah, happy with that. And then we're going to go down to hair shape. And we'll change the strand shape, change the diameter root, change the tip just to slightly change the shape of those strands. One thing we will notice though is that if we go into our other views, that right now it's just white. So we need to add in a texture. I'm doing this with Blender Kit. You can get a load of free textures on Blender Kit. I've got a link in my description if you want to sign up. It's totally free. They do have a paid option as well, but you can get most of these for free. So we're going to have a little look for a grass texture we like. Quite like the look of this one, but it's quite hard to see in this view. So let's add some light into our scene. So if we go to world, we'll add in a sky texture under color. We can't see this in the Eevee, so let's jump over to our render tab, change that to cycles, and we'll reduce these samples as well because that's kind of crazy high. I still don't know why those are so high, but we'll bring that down, and that's looking a little bit better. Don't forget to change from CPU to your GPU. There we go. That's much quicker. Got a basic look, but this is looking. Not totally convinced on this texture. Change the sun intensity just to see. No, this texture is a little bit paler than I'd like, to be honest. So we will change that. We'll try something a little bit more vibrant. See that? That's a bit paler even. So let's give it just a deeper green. There we go. That's much nicer. I'm quite happy with that one. Lovely. So then if we head back in to our particle system, Make that a little bit longer so that it's a bit more nice and bushy, and I like the way that looks, but it is still a little bit more uniform that I'd like. So under physics, we'll give it a little bit more mass, and we'll give it a browning force as well, which would just make it a little bit more random and droopy like grasses in the real world. And there we go. I'm quite happy with that result. That is looking good. The next thing we want to do is make our rocks, so we'll hide that. We'll add in a cube. Now, rather than make a sphere, we'll use the cube instead. So we're going to subdivide that, give it a couple of cuts there, and then we're going to use Shift, Alt, and S once we've got this all selected, and that is going to let us turn that cube into a sphere. This is much, much better in general compared to using a UV sphere, because you keep those quads on the corner rather than the topology being ruined in the process of using the sphere. So that's fine. So we'll shade that smooth. And with this then, we're going to generate our rocks. So with that selected, we are going to use another modifier. We're going to add a displace modifier again. And exactly the same as we did last time, we're going to add in a Voronoi texture, like so. And then if we have a look at this, we'll change the intensity a little bit so you can see the effect. We have a look at this in object mode, there we go. So we can kind of tweak these values to make the sort of rock that we like. So feel free to experiment. So we're going to tweak the size, tweak the intensity, and kind of play around until we get something similar to what we're looking for. So I'm looking for kind of smooth rocks. I'm looking for a bit of a gentle scene. You can also change these metrics to multiply the values and really enhance that look that you're going for. I actually quite like that. I'm quite a big fan of this one, so I'll probably stick with that for my rocks. You can probably see you've got a bit of artifact in there. You can also change the strength of the modifier as well. But I'm probably going to leave mine at 1 because I'm quite happy with that. So we'll apply that, and then again, we'll give it a subdivision surface to make that nice and smooth. And as simple as that, we've got our rock done. So similarly to before then, we're going to need to find a nice texture for this one. Because right now it's just white. So first we are going to grab the whole thing and go to UV and sphere projection to unwrap that. And then we're going to add in our texture afterwards. And that's going to then like map to our rock correctly. So this is the one that I've chosen. Again, I've lifted this from Blender Kit. You can use whatever texture you like, but there we go. We've got our rock in the middle of our grass scene. So straight away, you might notice that you've got grass coming through your rocks, which is not ideal. And the way we're going to fix that is by using weight paints. So we're going to go to this data tab and add a vertex group. For now, I guess we'll just call this hair map. And we're going to go into weight paint. And what we're going to do is basically paint where we want the hair to be. I keep saying hair, it's actually grass is where we want the grass to be. But what we can do is paint it on this landscape, and essentially the grass will only grow where we paint it red. So what we're going to do just to show this is to paint around the rock. Then we're going to go weights and invert. So then everything else is painted red. And if we then go back to our hair in our physics tab, and we scroll down to vertex groups, if you grab this density and assign your hair map, then you can see that it only grows where you painted it red. So we're going to use that later to fix our scene, but for now, let's design it how we want it. So we need to add a camera first. We'll hit 0 on the numpad to zoom in on the camera. Then Shift tilde lets you kind of control it like a video game, which I prefer to use. So we'll position that where it kind of looks good. I'm quite happy about it there. And then let's position some of these rocks around the place. So we're going to scale that one up, and we'll move that Shift Z to exclude the Z axis. We'll kind of put that in the foreground, somewhere around there-ish. Yeah, we'll pop it there, and then Shift D to duplicate. We'll just position a few of these around the scene. So pop one over there, one more for good measure. Pop that kind of a little bit in the background, somewhere around here. Just to vary it up, we'll rotate that one as well. Make it look a little bit more varied. There we go. Brilliant. It's looking quite good to me. So once you're happy with your scene then, okay, this is looking very nice then, blended into the grass. But again, we've got to fix that grass that's clipping through these rocks. So if we go back into our weight paint mode with the grass selected, there we go. So what we want to do is just vaguely color around these rocks. We'll invert that selection. We're going to color around the rocks. And just like that, on there. And then around this one as well. Perfect. And then we'll invert that back the way it was. Looks good. We've still got a little bit of clip in there though, so we want to just kind of tweak this. We'll pop the brush radius down. You can go in with control click to remove it as well. So we can just go in and just tweak this, touch up those edges, make sure nothing is clipping through our rocks. So get that one. And we'll just check this one there as well. Give that a little bit of space. Looking good. So if we just pop back to our camera and check. Looks good from there. Okay, lovely. And then if we pop into render view, and we'll take it off weight paint as well. There we go. You can see we've got no clipping, but that is looking maybe a little bit bare on that right-hand rock there. So maybe we'll just come back in and touch that up a little bit. Put that a little bit closer to our rock there. Just like so. Okay, there we go, much better. Lovely. So we've got our grass, we've got our rocks, but our scene is looking a little bit bare. So we're going to add a few props in. Again, I'm going to lift these from Blender Kit, and I'm going to search for their models. There's a few kind of amazing add-ons for foliage and that kind of thing, but kind of generating trees and leaves and foliage is quite a complicated process, can be. So for our scene, we are going to import some free models off the internet. So I'm going to drag in this tree from Blender Kit. There we go, and we're going to position this within our scene. So if we pop in and we grab this, and we just kind of position it where we want it. Something like that. And then we're going to experiment with this. So we'll scale it up a little bit and really just kind of let your imagination go with it. And this, maybe rotate it a little bit, you know, maybe move it again, maybe move it further away from you. Pop in, see how it looks. I like the way this looks so far. We make it even bigger. Nice big tree. Maybe we'll move it further away from us as well. Rotate it a little bit more with it being on that hill. Make it look a little bit more natural. Just really play with it and see what you can do with it. So we'll add a few more props. I've added in a little shrub there. I've added in a rose bush as well. But feel free to kind of have a look at the free models that are available online and really browse, because there's some amazing stuff out there. And there you go. You've got your little scene. I'm quite happy with what we've got so far. However, we are currently using the sky texture, and you can kind of play with it, which is great. But right now you've just kind of got that sun, and you don't really have any sort of background, and depending where you've got it and how much you control the light, it can look a little bit unrealistic at times. So what we're going to do is use a HDRI. And again, I'm going to use Blender Kit for this, but these are available all over the internet. You can use whichever one you like. But I'm going to grab this cloudy sunset on Blender Kit and drag that into my scene. And what this does is kind of gives you that background image, but also has it project realistic lighting. So we've got the lighting kind of coming from the sun in the background of our scene there. So you can kind of play with the strength of that and make it brighter if it's a particularly dark one like that one was. You can tweak it even further if you pop into the shading tab. And in this drop down, if you select world, this will show you a HDRI. You obviously can't see it in this view. So we might want to change that view up. But then if you come down into this tab here, have a look at the mapping node that we've got here. Say we're looking through our camera, we want to get something in the background there. You can change the Z rotation, which will move your light around your scene. That's kind of how you position your shadows and that kind of thing. So we'll move this and kind of experiment. And landed with a -75 for that value for my scene. We just tweak this camera angle a little bit, get a bit more background in there. And what I'd really like to do is get some of those clouds from the background in my final render. So we'll play with this a little bit. And maybe even up the strength, make it a little bit brighter in my scene. If it was a little bit dark. We want it to be kind of daylight rather than sunset, I think. So somewhere around 12 should be good, yeah. Quite happy with the way that looks. But then we want to get some of those clouds in, like I said. So the way you can do that is to play with the rotations again. And we're going to play with this Y rotation. And as you move that, you'll probably see, there you go, you can see the background of the scene changing slightly. This will move the background for you. So let's position that so we've got some clouds in the back. There we go. That looks fantastic. So finally then, we'll just tweak our camera settings. There's so much you can change in here, but we're just going to enable some depth of field and kind of experiment with where we want to focus the camera. I think we will focus perhaps on the tree rather than the rose bush. But you can just kind of experiment and see what works for your scene. We'll end up, yeah, the rock's not great. We'll focus on the tree for mine. That looks good to me. And then we'll tweak this f-stop. This basically governs kind of how much of your image is in focus. So if we put that to say about 2 or 1, one's a little bit too blurry. Yeah, let's go back up to about a 2. I'm happy with that. And then the other thing you can do in the render tab is to change your color management. And you can pop in some contrast. You can change the general look and feel of your image if you like. A lot of people tend to go for like high contrast. I prefer the low contrast personally. And that is it. Feel free to tweak your exposure or anything else. Just before we go to our final render, I've upped the samples on mine to 500. Obviously, the higher you go with your samples, the higher quality it's going to be, but obviously the longer it's going to take. So 500 is more than enough for our purposes here. And that's it. We hit that render button and see what comes out. This is my final product. This very, very basic intro to kind of outdoor scenes and HDRIs. Let me know if you've got any feedback or any tweaks to techniques we've used and what we could do better. And let me know what you'd like to see us do next on the channel.